Well, first, I really wasn't going to weigh in on this issue of Rachel Dolezal's race fraud. I thought it was a bit trivial, and there are bigger fish to fry and more important political debates to be had. But I've come to realize that she is very much symbolic and a microcosm of a lot of important issues, relevant issues that we've been discussing, as far as reverse racism and the double standard and the dangers of liberal culture. I first want to debunk a lot of these liberal, as usual, knee-jerk idiots that are defending her. Well, the first was that she has that trans race identity is some kind of valid identity. First of all, I kind of find that idea to be even more racist and a total contradiction, because the whole idea of civil rights is that all races are equal. You should not judge by the color of your skin. Well, how could you be black inside if it's just based on your racial identity and your genetics, not your psychology? So she's pretty much saying that that blacks are different than whites, and that's the contradiction here. It's like if I felt like I was Native American for whatever stupid reason, and there are some whites that do that, and I wanted to apply for Native status, I'd probably be shot by one of these Indians. I mean, they wouldn't tolerate that. First of all, she didn't grow up in a black neighborhood. I understand if you grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood, you might identify with black culture. But even these wiggers, like rappers, I mean, they don't attempt to be black. You don't see them dyeing their skin and curling their hair. I mean, they may speak in Ebonics and they act ignorant, but that's one thing. But she didn't grow up in a predominantly black neighborhood. She didn't know anything about black culture. Her parents adopted some kids from South Africa when she was a teenager, and then she started this fraud at some black college later and married a black man, never had any kids. So she really had no background in black culture. She just, like a typical liberal, she suffers from white guilt and identity issues because we live in a culture that makes you feel guilty for being a white person, even though we've brought, on balance, we've brought more good to Western civilization than any other race. But I'll get into that later. So she really has no black history or black identity or background. So let's try to second guess her psychology here. Someone made the argument that she was somehow abused or oppressed by the white people in her community, and she had met the black adopted part of her family, loved her more, and that's another line of bullshit, because that's just another form of racism. If you're going to make blatant statements about the white race and try to change your racial identity because of your personal experience, that's just like if I grew up in a black community and you're more likely to be a victim of black crime. I'm sorry, more statistically, black people kill and rob and steal far more from whites, but I'll get into that later too. So I'm justified to be a racist and join the Ku Klux Klan because I was abused and a victim of black crime. Or even so, here's the double standard of white racism. You got this Malcolm X idiot who always talk about the white devils and no one's offended. I mean, because the blacks have been so abused and oppressed, they have the right to be racist without question. So this woman is not only this woman is not only an idiot, but she's pretty much insane. And then you have people arguing that there were always mixed Negroes that pretended to be white and lived Caucasian lives for fear of whatever. Well, that's a different story. At least they were half white. The reason why they were passable is because they were Caucasian. They had Caucasian features, and they wanted to fit in. That's a little more valid than this bitch, this idiot who was not oppressed, who just has a woman who suffers from white guilt and feels it's sexy and somehow primal and to be a black person. I don't know if any of these liberal blacks, because there is some nuance, are defending her. I think the NAACP did. Maybe they're embarrassed because they're so incompetent they hired a white woman. But I think this woman should face charges for fraud. I think she faked her racial identity on maybe some of her college applications, or maybe she got some black grants. I'm not sure, but she should definitely be responsible and sentenced. But, if she didn't put in her dues, she wasn't born black, she wasn't raised black, she has no right to have this identity. And Same thing with the whole transgender issue, and these that race and sexuality is not something that should be sexual identity should be accommodatable. So this whole I want to touch upon. You can watch my Jenga review, film review about my ideas about the black experience. How pretty much this fallacy that historically always the white is the native and the primitive races are the victims of white oppression, and they're complete. Everything will be great if we never came here. You can watch my Mexican Sam commentary as well. First of all, that's not true. You go to Africa. I'll try to keep this short. Africa now, they're cutting each other's arms off. There's civil war. There's horrific violence, black against black genocide going on in Africa, worse than the European colonial years. Longevity, medicine, technology, everything in civilization is making everyone's lives better is helping the black and created by white Europeans. College, education, Christianity, we saved pretty much the black continent, or at least blacks in America, from their primitive religions. So this whole idea that white people should hate themselves and want to become black and identify black is totally based in this anti-Christian, anti-white fallacy, which I could consider satanic in its origins. It's very insidious because the next step is primitive, these new age religions and these voodoo and other forms of primitive occult movements. But in a nutshell, I won't insult your intelligence too much, but you can read my other videos. The point is, this woman is a complete idiot. She's a racist. She epitomizes what's wrong with the white liberal shithead culture. And I am a conspiracy theorist or realist to a degree, and it's no coincidence that this happened. Then we have this shooting in this church by this so-called white supremacist. Then we have all these racial issues with some in these shootings. I knew this was going to happen when we had a black president. This whole racial card is going to be played and distracted and brought into some policies already talking about taking away our guns again. Yeah, the timing is I find very interesting. Also check out my Selma review where I debunk the whole Martin Luther King thing. This woman should be in jail. She should be condemned, and we should be educating our youth that it's okay to be white. It's okay to have pride in America and Western and European culture. And if you're black, fine. But so anyways, I just want to weigh in a little about this. I want to elaborate. If you have any more comments, please add me on your Facebook, Bobby Lee, and check out my other videos. Thank you.